Well, so here we are, Saturday, March 21st at about 7 o'clock at night. So I have my little light in front of me. I don't know if you can see that. So good day all in all, So we're down here near Charleston, South Carolina. I guess we should say near Charleston, South Carolina, the KOA campground that we are at right now. It is generous to say that we are in the suburbs. It's one of those that this is the particular campground that we could actually get a reservation in, and so that is why we are here. But to actually, in fact, call it Charleston, a KOA, is a bit of a stretch. So we are here in the area. One of the reasons we came down to this specific area is my wife has friends here, so we went off and we saw her friends today, and that was an interesting experience because so my wife's about a year younger than me, so they're about her age, which is about a year younger than I am, and they already have 3 kids, which is kind of weird. So yeah, when my wife and I got married 7 years ago, they did not have any kids. They were thinking about kids. They were debating kids. And now, 7 years later, they have 3 kids, and one of them is 2 years old. And that is a weird experience to see these people that you used to party with and have fun and do incredibly stupid things with kids. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah. These are the type of people where I learned that light beer doesn't have as much alcohol as normal beer, and they were able to prove this to me by getting me to drink 24 beers in a single day. Miller Lights and the fact that I was still walking proved that there was less alcohol in light beer than there is in real beer. This is the type of people that we used to hang out with, and now they have 3 kids, which is just like wacky and insane. So we went to see them today, and that was fun and that was interesting. I was a little concerned though. Because I'm doing this whole travel adventure vlogging thing, and I figured I wouldn't really have a whole hell of a lot to say if we went over and just did the whole friend thing. But thankfully, they said, hey, we should go to one of the local parks. And so we went to the Caw Caw County Park. And I didn't think that the county park would be that interesting. It's like, ooh, wow, let's go to a little county park. But in fact, it is really it's a very, very beautiful park here. So it's over on Johns Island. So if you know anything about Charleston, this is Charleston. This is something else. This is James Island. This is Johns Island over here. So it's about half an hour or so outside of Charleston to the south, I guess you would say. And it's actually a really nice park. You walk through it, and it's an old rice plantation. You walk through that place and you have so much pity for slaves. I mean, if you haven't had pity for slaves in the past, you gotta have pity for slaves once you walk through that place, because it's an old rice plantation. And even as a park, we saw 2 poisonous snakes within like the first 15 minutes of being there. Cottonmouth. Apparently one of them was a cottonmouth. We're really not sure what the other one was. We asked the ranger or whatever that was there and showed them a picture, and they're like, oh yeah, that's a cottonmouth. Right. So just being there in a park now, we saw 2 of the snakes, and then you just saw all the water, and there's alligators there, and you're like, wow, I cannot imagine being in this place when it's 100 degrees outside with sun baking down and humidity and mosquitoes and snakes and everything else, and being whooped to work in this environment. That would just suck, right? But you walk through there, and as a swamp, it's a beautiful place to walk through. If you're a slave, it would suck. But as a park, it's really nice. So you get to walk through, and it's actually a rather large park. You could probably spend a whole day there if you really wanted to. But the nice part that we went through, it took us through the swamp area, and they had this raised wooden walkway that went a long way through. So it was probably like half a mile to a mile of this raised wooden walkway, and you could walk straight through the middle of the swamp, which was really cool. And it was nice because it was a nice wood walkway. And a lot of times you go to these county parks and they're kind of sketchy, you know what I'm saying? You walk on the walkway and you feel like you might fall in at any second, but this was actually a really nice one. You got to walk through and you got to see everything, and past that, you know, you got to see some more of the swampland and all the different trees and all the hanging moss. It's one of the things I love in the South is they have that hanging moss, that just hangs off of tree limbs, which is very nice. So overall, we wandered through, and it was a very, very nice day, and it was a great little place to walk through. It is one of those things that many of us forget about, I included. Like whenever we think about parks, I always think about national parks, right? You know, national parks are the parks to go to. And then state parks are kind of, you know, if you don't have anything better to do, you go to a state park. And frankly, I don't know what it is. As I've gotten older, I've like completely forgotten about county parks. But it's surprising how many good county parks there are. As I was walking through this particular county park today, I was thinking about the county parks I've been to in the past. And there are really a lot of nice county parks out there, but you just don't really think about them because they're not national parks. You know what I'm saying? So it's one thing to think about. So as we travel, do a little more of this trip, I think I'm going to start trying to pay a little more attention to these county parks versus just the national and the state park. Because it is, I mean, they are very nice. I mean, they're not huge, you know, they're not as big as states or anything like that. But if you want to spend a nice little day wandering through and seeing some interesting things, I mean, you get into a county park for like $1. The admission for this county park was literally $1. So you get in for $1 and you wander around and you have a good time. So it was very, very, very nice. But yeah, that was the big thing for the day, going through Caw Caw Interpretive Center, I guess it's called. But it was interesting seeing our buddies with kids now. Because kids do change you. I mean, it's funny to see just how, because you know, as you get older, it's funny. Like we all diverge on different courses in life, and so we have friends that are our age that are single. We have friends that are our age that are married, and now we have friends that are our age that have kids. And it's funny to see how your life changes as your life changes. So the people that we know that are still single at our age, they're still going out and partying and drinking and living a whole lot like we used to live about 10 years ago. I mean, they've calmed down a bit. They've learned how to hold their alcohol a little bit better. But in a lot of ways, they're still doing the same stuff. They're still hanging out in bars and they're still doing whatever, you know, we were doing back then. But then you see like the people that now have kids, and not just kids, right? So there's a point when you're an adult, a young adult, where people have kids and they're still babies. So when you have a kid and the kid is still a baby, you don't really change a lot. You're more tired. You feel like you have a little bit more responsibility, but you're still a lot the same way that you've always been. What's interesting to see is when people have kids, as the kids get older, it's just priorities change, how they interact with the world changes. It's just this, you see that the focus is now so much on kids. It's interesting. It is interesting how life diverges for different people. I don't really know what to say about that, but it is a very, very curious thing. Apparently, as they say, you know, having kids changes you, and from what I've been able to tell, that seems to be the case. I don't have any kids, so I don't know. It is one of the funny things I was talking to them about today, is how many of our friends that we used to go partying with, I mean like partying like rock stars, right? And it is so hilarious to be with people who used to party like a rock star with, do really, really incredibly stupid things that if the cops had been there, you would have gotten hauled into jail for. And then they have kids, and all of a sudden they get really protective of their kids. My kids drink? No, my kids aren't going to drink. My kids do drugs? No, my kids aren't going to do drugs. My kids get arrested by the police? I swear, if my kids get arrested by the police, I'm gonna XYZ. And you sit there and you look at them like, really? Did your parents do that when you got arrested by the police? You're not allowed to talk about that. Hey, remember when we used to get blackout drunk? Like, you know, remember when that was like a thing we did that was basically a hobby? You're not allowed to talk about that. Hey, you know, when you offered me, you know, a joint like, I don't know, 3 weeks ago? Okay. But it is funny for any of the young people out there just so you guys realize, there is something very weird that happens. The people that you party with, that you've done insane things, wacky things, crazy things, and they pop out a kid, and that kid gets to be about 1 year old, and all of a sudden, like, they don't want their kids to do any of the things that they in fact did, which I find to be a bizarre thing. Because if you look at a lot of these parents are actually really good people. You know what I'm saying? Like the people, like the couple that we were with today. I mean, they're a really good couple. One wife is has her own small business. The guy has his business. Has 11 employees. Great people. You know, they're worried about their kids doing the same things that they did. You know, I have another buddy of mine. Again, the same thing. I mean, just partied like a rock, made rock stars look like a joke, and yet now has employees, is one of the pinnacle, the whatever, the pillars of the community, and yeah, if his kid did any of the crap that he did, he would lose his mind. But you're like, you know what? You did that crap, and I'm just saying, it seems like you turned out like a pretty good person, right? So maybe we should give the kids a little bit of a break. Not my kids. Okay. Okay, I'm not telling anybody how to raise anybody. I'm just saying, I know what you used to do, like literally not that long ago, and you've turned out to be a pretty good human being. Maybe doing some of this stuff isn't so bad for the soul. Yeah. At which point I get shown the door. Like, I'm just saying, I think you're a good person. And I know how we used to party, which means, but yeah, one of those funny things, as you get older, you see all these people change around you. And it is funny, like, I guess like getting older without having kids is I don't feel the age, I think, the way that a lot of people that have kids feel older. Like, because when you don't have kids, you don't really have a way to gauge how old you are. So I'm almost 39 now, getting close to 39. But there's no real gauge to that. The only thing I really have to gauge my age on is maybe my birth or maybe graduating school. But otherwise, there's nothing really in my head that states I am X, Y, or Z old. And I think that's one of the things that makes people with kids feel older, is because it kind of puts an anchor point for them to see. So when they have a kid, they can then see, as the kid grows up and the kid gets older, that they are in fact 10 years older, that they are in fact, 20 years older. Like, for me, honestly, I don't feel a lot different than when I was 28, and I only feel slightly different than when I was 18. To be honest with you, I mean, I have more life experience and all that kind of stuff at this point. But there's nothing psychologically that makes me feel like, yes, I am 38. The only reason I even talk about it in a lot of my videos is simply because technology has changed so much in the past 20 years, and so, being a technical professional, I can see how things have changed, and it actually impacts me. And so when I'm talking to younger technology professionals, the fact of the matter is the world that they are dealing with is different than the world that I was dealing with, like fundamentally, massively different. So when I talk with new technology professionals and I talk about being old, it's not really because I feel old or I see myself as old. It's just, I have to caveat everything I tell them. I got my MC. This is how I got into technology. This is how I became successful. But that's not that. That's a world that's 15 years old. That's a world that is dead at this point. The world that we are in now looks more like this, and therefore I talk about age. But I don't really feel like old at all. Which I think that's one of the things, like when people have kids, you have a little bit more of that feeling of, you look down at a 10-year-old or you look down at an 18-year-old and you have this idea that you are actually, in fact, like 18 years older, right? It's one of those things to think about, to ponder. So we're here for another day. I'm not sure we'll really last more than a day here, another day here. Then tomorrow I'm gonna be going over to Magnolia Plantation. So yet another plantation that's become a tourist attraction. So gonna go over there. That's supposed to be like, it's one of the oldest gardens in the country. It's a garden, it's like this whole garden plantation place that has been around for like 360 years. Apparently it's been in the same family for over 300 years. And so it's some kind of natural garden whatever the hell that means. So we're gonna go there. It's like 362 acres, so that should be a good day. That should be a lot of good video and pictures for tomorrow. Then past that, maybe tomorrow night, go into Charleston again and take some pictures, and then most likely on Monday I'll leave. I haven't really figured where we're going on Monday. I need to get better at that. Again, there's so little planned. So the goal, the next big goal to get to is the Okefenokee Swamp. The Okefenokee Swamp is a national swamp, park, whatever. It's down basically by the border of Georgia and Florida. The issue that I'm dealing with figuring out how to deal with the Okefenokee Swamp, though, is it's a pretty big swamp because it's a national park. And so the issue is there's not a lot of roads around it. There's no roads that go through it. So the campground I want to get to, so we're like here, and the campground I want to get to is here. But I think in order to get there, I literally have to go all the way around the park and kind of come in here. So if I want to go, if here's the park, if I want to go from where we are to the edge of the park, that's within my little 200-mile whatever radius. So every time we move, I want to go about 200 miles. But literally, to go from here all the way around into the entrance to get us into the park, I think will take us a lot longer. So I kind of have to figure that one out. So we may go down to Savannah next. So Savannah is a nice old, beautiful southern city. That's about 90 miles from here. So not a huge distance from here, but Savannah is a pretty nice place to take a look at. So we may go down to Savannah for 2 days and then go over to the Okefenokee Swamp. But we have to see. My wife lived in Savannah for a number of years, so I'm not sure how much she actually wants to go back to see Savannah again. For me, I like to go back to see Savannah. I've only been to Savannah once, and it seemed like a nice city at the time. But, it's one of those. She's already been there, so... It's one of those things. We'll figure it out. We will figure it out as we go. Because as I say, I have no plan. To say that people don't really get it. They're like, yeah, I really don't have any plan. Basically, it's just kind of winging it. I know we're trying to get to New Orleans. So it's like here, somewhere in Okefenokee Swamp territory, somewhere down on the Gulf Coast, somewhere over in New Orleans, and then from there I really have absolutely no clue. That's about the only plan I have right now. Just keep going. We did hit our final Whole Foods for a while today, so my wife is the oil-free, sugar-free vegan. She eats very healthily. So since we're down here in Charleston, South Carolina, Charleston is probably going to be the last place we see a Whole Foods, probably until New Orleans. So at least a couple of weeks away, right? So we came down. We went to the Whole Foods here, and it is a funny experience. Going to different places, even within the United States, really can be a really weird, funny experience. Because I've been going to Whole Foods for a long time. I've been going to Whole Foods since 21, 22. So a long time now, 15, 16 years. I've been to a lot of Whole Foods. I've been to Baltimore Whole Foods, I've been to Seattle Whole Foods, I've been to California Whole Foods, I've been to Whole Foods all over the country, right? Never really thought much about it. So I'm going to this Whole Foods, and it's a Whole Foods like most other Whole Foods are. It has its own little quirk since it's down here, but it's basically the same old Whole Foods. And so I'm going, and it was so funny because I then go into line, and we have the whole basket of overpriced food that we're buying, and I'm putting it on the little conveyor belt, and it was so weird. Because I had like this weird cultural experience where this really nice, pretty black girl walks up to me and goes, "Can I unload this for you?" And I just kind of look at her, and then I look at the cashier, and then I look at the bagging lady. So I've already got a cashier and a bagging lady, and I'm like, unload this for me? What do you mean unload this for me? She's like, "Do you want me to take it out of the basket and put it onto the conveyor belt?" And I'm like looking at her like, is this a trick question? Is this like a test? Can you tell like I'm a northerner? And so you're like trying to test me like on some kind of like race card here? Like, can you have a black girl take the stuff out of your cart and put it on the conveyor? But I'm like, I don't know what to do with this. And it really was like funny. I just stopped for a second because I have never in my life had anybody ever take anything out of my basket and put it on a conveyor belt. And I was just like, does not compute. And so those are the little interesting things that you see traveling to different places. You know, this little, like, these just cultural things. Again, like I said, I've never in my life had my cart unpacked before. It was a very curious thing. That's something to think about. Like, for any of you guys like starting businesses or any of that, you know, people trying to go out there and figure out how to make, you know, their next $1 million or whatever, is by traveling to places like this, you see these little cultural things that are different, and they're things that you realize you may want to steal for your own environment. So like up north, I mean, imagine if up north you had a grocery store where people unpacked the cart for you. Oh my, hipsters would fall in love with that. Can you imagine some little New York hipster, or like one of these big city hipsters, you know, with all their cool stuff on, going to a supermarket that unpacks their cart for them? Oh, you know what I'm saying? It's one of those things you look at and you go, huh, that's a very curious thing. But it was so funny. Nicest lady in the world. Nicest lady in the world. She just comes up to me. She just looks at me. And I'm like, I don't know how to answer this question. Oh, one of those things. There you go. Anyways, with that, I think I'll call it a night. We'll stop doing this video, so hopefully I can upload this tomorrow. I was very happy that the 4K video, so I did the video last night and I was able to upload it this morning. So I'm now a little more confident that I will be able to upload 4K videos. As I was talking about before, after the experience I was having, I was really worried. I thought I would have to scrap 4K video and just go down to 1080p, but it looks like I'll be able to upload in 4K video. I may not be able to do it every day, but worst case scenario, I'll get to some RV park and I'll just upload 5 or 6 at a shot. So that's a good thing. One of the questions that got brought up by somebody out there is they said, why don't I compress my videos more? So compressing your video, so my 4K videos are anywhere between 10 to 14 gigs in size, and so you can use what's called compression software, and the compression software will squeeze that down to a smaller amount. So YouTube uses a compression software. So when I upload my 14 gig video, they turn it into a 4 gig video. The reason I don't use compression software is because once you start using things like compression software, you have to worry more and more about the actual output, the video that gets outputted, and that is one thing that I don't like playing with. So whenever any video file gets compressed, you're losing something somewhere. In order to take a video file from 14 gigs down to 4, it means you have to strip out data. And that's just how it is. You don't actually, in fact, compress. What you do is using algorithms, using a lot of advanced math, they rip out different parts of the video that they don't think you'll notice. And then then the problem is when you watch it, you may or may not notice that there is something missing. So if you see video files that are compressed too much, basically the video that comes out will be absolute crap. Even if it's 4K, you'll get really weird things, like you'll get artifacts. So artifacts is like if I wave my hand like this, where you'll see like it's not just lines, but it's like you'll see my hand in multiple places. So you start to see that kind of stuff whenever you compress video. And so for me, I don't want to spend a lot of time and energy in the editing process. I spend about half an hour to an hour editing these videos and then pumping them out. And the issue is, if I started then compressing the videos, I would have to go back and watch the video again to verify that the compression hasn't screwed anything up. And then if it has screwed something up, then I've got to tweak the compression settings, and then I've got to re-encode. They'll take another half an hour. Then I have to look at the output again, so on and so forth. So it would then take my editing process from being 30 minutes to an hour to hours and hours and hours, which I just have zero interest in. Again, with my whole business, my mentality as a content creator is I want to find interesting stories to tell you guys, and I want to tell you those stories. That is what I'm trying to sell you. That is what I'm presenting here. Being the best video editor in the world, I don't care. I simply don't care. Again, I love Wheezy Waiter. If you have not watched Wheezy Waiter, go watch Wheezy Waiter. But that boy spends a lot of time editing 4-minute videos, right? He has these 4-minute videos, and I'm telling you, he probably spends at least a day in the editing process of those 4-minute videos. And I have no interest in that. If I can take a day, I would rather go off and do something really cool and adventurous versus sit over a MacBook Pro trying to figure out how to splice and cut things together and make it look good. So that is why I'm not compressing. Some people can compress and it'll be fine. My worry is let's say I take these videos, I compress them, I upload them, then there's something they missed and it doesn't look right. I'd rather just not worry about it, to be honest with you. That's about the story for today. So here we are, March 21st. That's about it. So I'll see you guys tomorrow.
Well, I got a good start and nothing needs to be refrigerated.